you have to start. Like, I think sitting on the sidelines saying that, look, it's still all theoretical, it's all nice to have, but we don't need to do anything. I think that question needs to go away. I think you need to start your journey. I think companies that now delay that decision are opening themselves up to being left behind. And my comment to them would be like,
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Ecom Lab. Today I'm your host. My name is Tommy Lee. Joining me today is Naeem Faruqi.
Hi, Tommy. Well, thank you for having me today on this podcast. I'm the founder and CEO of Fleet Zero. I have been working in the transition zero emission fleet space for the last decade. Had the opportunity to work with various agencies, government, private sector, first mile, last mile delivery, about supply chain. So I'm really looking forward to talking about sustainability in the supply chain.
Nice. Of course, today's topic is of course on sustainability. Now, for the last 10 years or so, you've been running this company, Fleet Zero. You've seen everything about sustainability. So, especially in North America, how have you seen the shift in the past decade, and then what's really driving behind it?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Tommy. Like, I think when you think about our supply chains and what's driving decarbonization efforts, there's a bit of carrots and there's a bit of sticks.
Okay.
So let's talk about the carrots first. There's grants, there's incentives, there's behavioral nudges that are being done by government elected officials. And then the sticks are that they're saying, look, no, after 2035, you cannot buy an internal combustion engine vehicle, right? They're setting mandates that say, look, you can't operate these type of vehicles in commercial applications and in your private life as a consumer owning a private vehicle. But, beyond that, you're also seeing the awareness of, Gen Z, millennials, other groups saying that, hey, look, we want sustainable products delivered in sustainable ways, right? You see this anecdote a lot that, when you actually look at a pair of shoes manufactured halfway around the world, the carbon footprint of bringing them to North America is lower than the last mile footprint of someone going and picking up those in their SUV or their Escalade. So people don't realize that how efficient the supply chain is on the global scale in certain areas versus the last mile. So I think, when it comes to your supply chain, understanding how you distribute when you bring it to the docks, the rail yards, the intermodals is really important. So, I think we're seeing that catalyst being consumer awareness, government regulatory pushes. So there's multiple push and pull factors at play, but those are some of the bigger ones that I would say that we're starting to see meaningful impact start emerging.
So, in your opinion, why is sustainability no longer an optional for online brands, but a necessity?
Well, I think, if you take that question and you look at the consumer element, consumers don't want to support companies that are, creating massive environmental hazards all over the world, right? We're aware of that, right? And the consumer is more conscious. Like, we look at our fabrics that we wear and what's the carbon intensity of that fabric or toxicity, right? So you're seeing a lot of that awareness in the consumer. So when it comes to brands have to, and have started the sustainability reporting. So if you think about this, like 20 years ago, your annual report was basically the metric that a company lived and died on, right? So it was like, I made X billions of profit or X millions, and this is how we operated, and these are all our notes saying our impact, right? Now you've got a complementary document that's called the sustainability report that says, look, this is all the initiatives we've done to decarbonize our supply chain. Like, if you take automotive manufacturing, they're looking at recycled leather, they're looking at plastic that's recycled, that's incorporated into the body and the composite structure, right? So you're seeing that awareness sort of trickling down, and that's where, like, the nice to have versus the want is driven by, again, I think the consumer who wants to be more conscious and wants to support the environment, and secondly, the governments that we don't have a planet B. There's no planet B.
Right.
So there's only planet A, right? So we've got to make sure that Earth is here for many generations to enjoy, right? So I think that's where you're seeing that shift and that awareness. Does it lead to some immediate pains? Yes. But does it lead to opportunities as well? Yes. So that, I would say, corporations who are incorporating into their DNA sustainability, in the long term, their brand will prevail.
Just now you said that there's some short-term pain. So let's talk about a little bit more, but on the impact on the financial side, right? So, what would be some of the impact, or I would say consequences, for e-commerce brands who, I would say, ignore sustainability, and then how does it really impact like their bottom line? Do you think? Obviously we talk about the consumer side, right?
Yeah.
What they want out of it, but now from business perspective, like how does that impact them financially?
Well, think about it. So we've got a carbon market.
Right.
We've got a carbon component. So every parcel that's delivered with an internal combustion engine vehicle has that cost now being borne. It
Right.
also has the cost of fuel, higher maintenance, right? So all those variables are adding up to impact an organization's bottom line, right? So whereas if you had an EV fleet delivering, your maintenance cost would be much lower. We've heard from experts and fleets that they're saving somewhere in the range of 30 to 70% on maintenance cost.
That's massive.
And
Yeah.
their fuel
Yeah.
cost is drastically lower, right? Fuel is a variable that's tacked onto your supply chain, right, by your transport companies as a fuel premium. So that can change, and that changes your competitive advantage. If you can operate with less, your profits, your position in market to respond and be more resilient is also improved.
Right. No, of course, it makes sense. Converse to that, right? So what would be some of the risks you would say for e-commerce business brands out there who delay taking on that sustainability efforts in order for us to get there?
Well, when I started this journey about 10, 12 years ago and started helping fleets with the transition, it was an if question, if we will go electric.
Right.
And
Right.
in the last 2, 3 years, it's a when question now.
Right.
When are we going electric, right? So that fundamental uncertainty has changed into now when, time-wise. So I think companies that now delay that decision are opening themselves up to being left behind, right? So my comment to them would be like, dip your toes in the water, start seeing what's out there, understand, because you cannot live in a bubble where you're not aware of all these technologies and this transition, because at the end of the day, it will create challenges for you and it will take away your competitive advantage, right? If all your peers have gone and started implementing electric vehicles and you're the only one without it, people will question why you're not looking at it, why you're not doing it, and your peers are being successful at it, right?
Let's say if they don't move along with it with the time, where sustainability now is so important to the world. Let's talk some numbers, right? Do you have any sort of data on how much harm the supply chain actually causes to the environment in terms of the lack of effort in sustainability?
Yeah, so I think some of the data points are that transportation accounts for, it's the number one emitter
Right.
for emissions. First mile, last mile delivery is in double digits as well in terms of its impact. And then when you're talking first and last mile, remember there's two elements to it. So there is the actual delivery component,
Yes.
and then there's the consumer going to a retail shop, right? So those are different things. And when North America's average vehicle size and the number one selling vehicle is a pickup truck, a Ford F-150, it's emitting a lot to go down to your local Target or your other stores, right? So you just need to be aware of that and be cautious about that. So I think emissions as a whole, transportation is a huge chunk of that. And the challenge we have is that apart from babies, everything is delivered, right? Through trucks, through supply chains. So it's a reality that an urban center needs a lot of products, materials, and households consume a lot, right? So it's the very nature of the situation where you're in, right? So looking at local, sustainable ways of delivering are ways to improve that quality of life for people in these urban centers.
Right. Now, obviously there are a lot of business owners out there, if you talk to, I would say maybe some of the smaller, medium business size, and then they think that, sustainability requires, like, you will need massive infrastructure investments and on all these kind of crazy spendings in order to become sustainable. What are some of the things that you would say that they can change like today to like make that immediate impact and contribute to the society, of course?
Yeah, so I think there's always a fear to get started,
Right.
and an anxiety. So I think take a step back, look at your organization, look at small changes, right? Like what's the waste that's being produced in your organization? Have you achieved recycling goals, right? What's the percentage of your waste that's diverted to recycling versus going to a landfill, right? There's stuff that you can do that doesn't require massive capital. Now, going through the journey of zero emission, it will cost. It's a capital-intensive transition, and that's why the government's there to provide various grants on the vehicle side, on the infrastructure side. There's even training grants to train mechanics and first responders. So it's a holistic opportunity, and we have the privilege of being in a country where you actually see government support for this, and you have MHZEB, you have ZTEF, you have other various programs out there that will step in and subsidize this transition to make it more economically fruitful.
Right. Speaking of which, in terms of innovation wise, right? What is there something that's been really exciting that in your opinion, or something that could be your company or a trend out there that you're seeing right now that's coming out that would change the way we approach sustainability in logistics?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is a traditional hub and spoke model of logistics being redeveloped with micro manufacturing, with cross-docking, some of this old stuff that's been around, but it's being reinvented with AI and technology. I don't want to bore you with one of the greatest what you can say scientific problems is the traveling salesman.
Sure.
AI anomaly, right?
Yeah.
How do you optimize the perfect route? But we're in this age where AI is dominating. So are we about to crack this? Right. And are we going to find the most efficient way to deliver packages? I think so. I think this is going to happen in this decade. So you're going to see a lot of those efficiencies start coming through, right? So and I think that's really important as we start having more of these conversations. For me, the innovation is I was just recently in China last week. I saw. I was in Shanghai, I was in Nanjing, I saw drones operating there, I saw electric vehicles operating there. Every vehicle I got into a taxi, it was an EV.
Yep.
I asked them the price point, they were a fraction of the cost that they are here, and they were built and resembled aesthetically very pleasing vehicles. So I think you're seeing a lot of innovation, you're seeing tools, micropayments, the consumption is being redeveloped, and it's getting more and more efficient, right? There's companies in India and the Far East that can deliver anything in 2 hours to you, just matter what you want, right?
So that's super quick.
I know, and
from a logistical standpoint.
When you think about this, it used to be next day delivery was a great thing.
Right.
Well, what about afternoon delivery? That's where we're coming to, right? I looked at it at 11 a.m. I wanted it at 3 p.m. in my house.
We live in a consumer world, right? We need it now. We need it today. I think Amazon obviously is a big player in that area. So, now, what do you say? When it comes to innovation, right? You're talking about AI and sustainability. Some people are fearful of AI agents replacing jobs. How do you think that impact? Do you think that will be a factor in sustainability, where because we're optimizing our routes, we're optimizing the way we deliver to our customers by using drones, we no longer need taxi drivers. What do you have to say to that?
Well, so first, our preface is I think AI is so disruptive that we don't even know how disruptive it is until it actually goes through an entire industry, and then we sort of look at what are the casualties of this adoption, right? Yeah. Now, if we took a step back and I said to you, where 30 years ago the fridge was invented or consumed in mass, maybe 50 years ago, right after World War II, what happened to the milkman?
Sorry.
Do we still have the milkman? Is he employed? That was a big logistical job, every day dropping milk off to people. We don't even talk about that. We don't even think about it. Right. So, I think it's a point of reference and a moment of time. So I think the innovation of AI is going to be very disruptive. But I think at the same time, it's going to yield new opportunities.
Right. So it's just part of the adoption.
Exactly. It's part of the adoption. It's part of our evolution. It's same thing. 100 years ago, there's a great photo of New York, Manhattan area, where it shows that there is all horse and buggy, and there's one car. And I think within 10 years, that same photo is taken, and everyone has a car, and there's one buggy.
Right.
So we are, we are at that cusp, right? Adoption of EVs in North America are less than 10% right now. We've still got a huge runway, and we're going to see that adoption and what it yields, right? I think the innovation, it doesn't stop, right? You're seeing different tech companies adding delivery as a function of their business, right?
Right.
Like you're seeing Uber doing the traditional passenger base, and then they've got Uber Eats, and they're doing a lot in there, and but that at the same time is improving the sales of restaurants that never had the ability to keep a
Right.
driver on payroll. So you're expanding their performance, right, and their business profitability. So I think it's a give and take, and I think we'll see more of it coming out.
Right. If you have to give one piece of advice out there, for e-commerce brands who's looking to make their logistics more sustainable, what would that be?
Yeah, again, good questions. I think, Tommy, I think it goes down to the point that you have to ask yourself this: am I looking to grow? Am I looking to evolve? Right? And I think you have to start. Like, I think sitting on the sidelines saying that, look, it's still all theoretical, it's all nice to have, but we don't need to do anything. I think that question needs to go away. I think you need to start your journey. And there's a great quote from the Far East that says, a journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first. So you need to actually start, and start thinking about it. It doesn't have to be a revolution. It can be an evolution. So you can start with the basics, right? Put an anti-idling rules into your organization. Introduce a pilot with electric vehicles. Start with small steps. Don't jump in. I never recommend a fleet jump in, because if you jump in, whatever problem you have, it's going to multiply by 10, 20x depending on how big your fleet is and how much have you put into electric. So give your staff the time to get familiar with the technology, get comfortable with the technology, and then you can advance forward. And then you're showing that commitment to your consumers, to your business-to-business relationships, and you're showing the broader societal benefits.
Right. Well, I mean, this was something. I mean, for me, anyways, sustainability, is something that I'm still new to. So today was great. Thank you so much. I know you're working on something really exciting. So we'll see you back in about 6 months from now, and hopefully, we'll have some more exciting stuff that we can share with you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, and it was a pleasure having you chat with us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tommy, for having me, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, I look forward to being back.
Amazing.